In 2 weeks, some of the most powerful, influential, and wealthy people will be getting together in Davos, Switzerland for the annual World Economic Forum meeting. 5,100 feet, Davos is the highest town in Europe. The World Economic Forum says it picked this snowy retreat because it was the ideal place for people to get away from all the trappings of daily reality. Started in 1971 by German economics professor Klaus Schwab, the annual event was designed to bring together the foremost political, business, and other mega millionaires and billionaires who have heavy influence across every industry and facet of people's lives. This invite only event is dedicated to hobnobbing, making deals, and the continued mission of fusing government and private sector together, all to achieve a fascist state conditioning people under the guise of democracy. If you have no idea what this is about, or now slowly opening your eyes, don't worry, you're not alone. Many of us are slowly coming to terms with what has been going on and realizing that this forum has been a driving force in the chaos and destruction we have been seeing in the recent couple of years.
You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
For those that don't know, that's Larry Fink. He is the CEO of BlackRock, but also a board of trustee for the World Economic Forum. So, this unofficial forum engages the most foremost political, meaning governments, business, cultural, and other types of leaders in society, pretty much those that have money, to shape global, regional, and industry agendas, meaning affecting how the regular folk like you and I get to live. And if you didn't know that the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and the World Economic Forum are aligned at the hip and tied to the hip, now you do. So, what I want people to understand is that the United Nations is an NGO. It's not an elected body that the people of various countries have voted to put in charge of coming up with these governance and regulations for international law. They're doing it on their own. But they are now serving as the bridge between the World Economic Forum and the members of it and governments from around the world, including the United States. I guess what's really concerning about this, and this is coming from an American perspective, these global governance frameworks that are being worked by the United Nations and getting member states to agree to essentially will be bypassing the United States law and constitution, giving away sovereignty to this non elected body, which is carrying out the directives of the people who are part of this WEF, which we'll refer to now moving forward. And what's really scary about this is the mindset conditioning that is happening from the bottom, starting with the schools, then into the colleges, and then out into corporations as you get out into the workforce. So, what we're seeing is that these freedoms that we have in the West are slowly being taken away by this small group of elitists who are doing it not only for profit, but also for power and control. I think the big question on people's minds is it too late to affect some type of change? I personally don't think so. I think that we are at a critical point this year in 2024 to where it could go one way or another. My goal for this channel is strictly to help educate on this process because I truly believe that knowledge is power and there is strength in numbers. So, the Davos annual meeting is scheduled to take place from January 15th through to January 19th. And the theme for the week is rebuilding trust. So, this rebuilding of trust that they're talking about is foreshadowing of what to come, and that is surrounding technology. Over the last couple of years, people have been waking up to the fact of these globalists who have been trying to steal people's sovereignty and freedoms away. And they don't like the fact that they can't control this narrative. So, what have we seen over the last year in 2023? Laws being passed, but we'll get into that in a bit. Let's take a look at the 4 areas that they are planning on deep diving into, in which we could essentially predict what they have planned in store for us in 2024. So in 2024, there are four areas that they are going to be concentrated and focused on, which is the long term strategy for climate, nature, and energy, artificial intelligence as a driving force for the economy and society, creating growth and jobs for a new era, and then finally, achieving security and cooperation in a fractured world. For this video, we're going to focus on this first pillar and go into depth about what they are talking about here in rebuilding the so called trust. So, what they're trying to tackle here is answering the question of how we or them can effectively deal with security crisis, such as the current situation in the Middle East, while at the same time putting the floor under the structural forces of fragmentation. Now, if that's not a word salad, I don't know what else is. Anyway, the other question that they're pondering to solve: how can they identify areas where cooperation is essential to ensure a win win scenario for all stakeholders? Again, these stakeholders include none of us. Let's tackle the first report, which is the G20 Digital Agenda, Cross Presidency Priorities. Let's see what the G20 has agreed to or had been discussing on our behalf without us knowing. I'd like to let you know that these reports can be found on the World Economic Forum website. They are also allowed to be shared and republished under the Creative Commons attribution. So, in regards to this report, they are addressing the G20 and the digital agenda. So, what is this group about? Well, the G20 is an intergovernmental forum comprising of 19 sovereign countries, the European Union, and the African Union. It works to address major issues related to the global economy, such as international financial stability, climate change mitigation, and sustainable development. The G20 was founded in 1999 in response to several world economic crises. Since 2008, it has convened at least once a year with summits involving each member's head of government or state, finance minister, or foreign minister, and other high ranking officials. So, as you can see, this group is predominantly getting together to talk about money. So, the first G20 cross presidency priority they have listed here is focusing on the centrality of digital inclusion, access, and trust. So, on the surface, the language that they use from a marketing perspective doesn't seem so alarming or off putting. Well, when you read further to really discover what they're trying to do here, it should be raising red flags for everyone to run the opposite direction. Okay, so when you look at this, they're indicating that people, organizations, and governments need to access and interact with a trusted global digital ecosystem. Notice here, there's no plurality with that. They're talking about one platform that is accessible by the government, by private organizations. And what they're selling everybody on is the economic prosperity this is going to bring to so many people who don't have equal access to internet and tools of technology like some of people in, the Western world or first world countries. But when you start to think about this a little deeper, you start to realize that the biggest problem that they have here and they're trying to break down is the issue around people's privacy and being able to see what people are doing. If you notice here, they say, yet issues around digital access, trust, ownership, inclusion, and security are becoming more complex, preventing all of society from fully benefiting from technological progress. Oh, meaning if they can't see what you're doing and controlling the information that's coming out to you, then we're not advancing as a society, because then that takes away from the agenda and the things that they want to see happen, not only to increase their wallet share, but also to increase their control and power over people. This is what is going on. I don't buy this for 1 second, especially when you're looking at the G20 and you see who's on that list. I'm sorry, but we have Russia and we have China sitting there. Would any of you who's listening to this in the Western world trust being on a global platform where all information can be seen by these other countries and entities? Absolutely not. So, who do they think that they're fooling here? Obviously, people are not taking the time to read this. So, my guess is that in their own little bubble, by them saying this, they're being transparent, but at the same time, they fully know that people are so distracted with other things, it's going to totally pass on by. While we have these leaders who are full on board with the way that this is going, willing to sell its people out. Securing the G20's commitment to and support of these subjects could mark a pivotal moment for global progress. Yeah, in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. When you have countries like China who don't treat everyone the same, I think there's a little more work that needs to be done in other areas than deciding to put us all onto one single digital platform. Let's get there first before we can even talk about all of us being online in the same capacity. Also, if you're in technology, you would know that putting all eggs in one basket with no diversity is a big no no. So, where is the redundant network and where is the alternate option that people can use in case they don't like the terms of the construct? Let's say the terms do not allow for regular folk like you and I to create or be able to build outside of whatever construct that they have set forward. There may be lesser opportunity for people, but the danger of putting everybody onto a single platform where the government's hand now is fully involved should scare people. So, now building off of the first priority that they've set out, if you're not convinced that this is the way to go and that there is going to be a lot of opportunity if we all get onto this one ecosystem, they then insert the element of fear, which is injecting the cybersecurity threat. So here's the paradigm shift that we all have to make a decision on. Do we want to give up more of our autonomy and turning it over and allowing technology to take over? Or do we want to say, we don't need to go faster, do more with less, and accept what we have already? See, the WEF doesn't think about that. They think about the opportunity that presents itself by interconnecting everybody together because, one, they're talking about efficiency, they're talking about cost savings from manpower. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about dollars and cents with these people. The technocrats that are at the head of this World Economic Forum see tremendous opportunity by consolidating everybody onto a global platform because not only is it going to drive new business for them, but it's also going to be a level of control in being able to push and stream and to get the consumer to buy more and do less. What I find very concerning about this is the push for policy at the global level that none of us here in the United States will have any say or voice. It says here, in response to digital transformation, emerging technologies, and connected cybersecurity risks, many governments have started imposing cybersecurity requirements, especially when national security, economic security, or public health and safety is at stake. The intentional design and implementation of these requirements need attention at the global policy level. I'm sorry, but national security here in the United States should not be open for other countries to be able to see and weigh in on. My whole issue with this global policy level is the visibility that countries like China, like Russia, and whoever else is a part of this global platform is going to see and use against us. The way that I see this whole entire report is like a sales pitch for the presidents of these Western countries, particularly the United States. As we see here, the third bullet point is driving towards a global health system in which everything is digitized in order to not only track and trace what people are doing, but also measure carbon output. Again, this is encroaching on people's personal sovereignty in monitoring whether or not you are sick, whether or not you have vaccinations. I mean, it says here during the C-19 pandemic, digital technology and data flows enabled several critical responses, including data sharing for medical research and responses, monitoring and controlling vaccine production and distribution, and adopting digital services for business and public service to prevent disruption. During the pandemic, several platforms emerged that collected data from around the world to track and assess these trends. It goes on to then say, beyond electrification and renewables, critical areas of investment and opportunity include carbon capture and storage, carbon removal technologies, circular technologies, sustainable agriculture and water and biodiversity solutions. These areas will require deep private and public partnerships, new foresight methods to illuminate what comes next, and system level approaches. G20 countries are well positioned to lead the change in developing all of these. These are going to be conversations that are going to be held in 2 weeks and be a core focus with leaders from around the world, as well as with private companies. The public, or those that are part of so called democracies, do not have a say in any of the decisions or suggestions that are being made in order to take away personal sovereignty away from us. If you notice, everything that they're talking about is about opportunity, meaning at the end of the day, this is about money and this is about getting richer. Whether or not this is going to help us is yet to be seen, but I don't like the idea of being measured and being tracked and traced for every breath that you take, because what it comes down to is really controlling the population. We didn't elect these people into office. They have no business striking deals without any type of input or say from the majority of the population. That just goes to show that they look upon us as if they have the right or are better than, and that's why they're called the elitists, to make these life impacting decisions onto the vast population because they think that they know better. And now, with the next to last point, the suggestion here is opening the data flows under this global infrastructure ecosystem in which they want cross border data to be able to flow seamlessly in order to promote digital economic growth. Now, how many people really feel like that's a good idea to allow all traffic to be seen, exposing people's privacy? Just putting that out there. The biggest obstacle that they have here is getting around the privacy regulations that are in various countries, especially like the United States. And if you think that I'm being too conspiratorial, then let's take a look at the most recent report published in December 2023, really driving home the point that privacy and giving up privacy is going to have to happen in order for us to get to this one central global platform. I think it's a huge problem when you see the conversations and debates being held by our government officials and these private corporations without the voice of the people in saying that they are talking about trade offs between digital sovereignty and interoperability, meaning they're making the decision on your private information, how much they will allow to give away or not give away. And I think the frustration that the World Economic Forum is having is based off of the regulations that China and the United States have in place, which I think for the moment we should, count our blessings that we do have a lot of red tape around that, but it's slowly being given up, especially if we continue down the path of this partnership with the United Nations and the World Health Organization. And with that pandemic treaty coming up, let's hope that the United States doesn't sell us out and signs away our personal sovereignty, which is exactly what will happen if nations do agree to go into that treaty agreement. We're going down a very slippery slope with these people. And if we do not pay attention and are distracted by the other stuff that seems to be cropping up, these folks are going to continue to steal your personal sovereignty away, and before you know it, there's nothing you can do. On this last note, for this core pillar, the key finding here throughout and the central theme around the rebuilding of trust is partly due to controlling the internet and being able to control the information flow that's going through the internet in order to maintain this type of order that they're trying to achieve to. So, my final thoughts in looking over this one core pillar is it's painfully clear that they want to do away with privacy, feeling that transparency of everyone that's using the digital ecosystem will have to give away some of their digital sovereignty in order to allow for this exponential growth and opportunity. Who does it benefit? Doesn't really talk about it benefiting the little people like us, but more so the enterprises that are in this government private partnership agreement that no one chose to be the international body. They elected themselves. In my personal opinion is we are the majority, even though we are the silent majority. They need us in order to make this all work. In a perfect world, all of this sounds wonderful, but we all know that the people that are involved more than likely are doing this for selfish reasons and are extremely corrupt. We know quite a few characters in the political sphere that you shouldn't trust. What I do think, though, is that should there be a shift and a pushback, and the people have more of a voice and more feeling or a sense of control and being able to maintain their personal sovereignty, then there could be some type of give and take. But in this situation with this organization, they are making decisions for you. And I'm not sure how you feel about that, but for me, I do not comply and I will not comply. It really does fall on each of us to take responsibility to learn about what's going on and decide for ourselves if this is the future that we want. But until then, I do hope that you do come back and join me on this journey of learning what is really going on so we can make these decisions and make the right ones. But if you like this video, please do not forget to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe because I will be dropping more videos pertaining to this Davos annual meeting and uncovering what it's really all about and bring you definitely don't want to miss it. But until then, I ask you please be safe and I'll see you soon.